This is what a nasty case of sleep paralysis can do to you. This woman's husband noticed that she would do weird things in the middle of the night, especially around 3 a.m., aka the witching hour. So he set up cameras, and this is what he caught.
I feel like the deeper I get into my faith and the closer I get to Jesus, the more spiritual attacks I experience. Like every night for the past month, I have woken up at 3 a.m., at 2:58, at 3:13 a.m., and I am having nightmares. Like I literally last night had sleep paralysis and I was being like held down by a demon.
I need someone to listen to me. Somebody please listen to me. I just woke up from a dream and I knew I was dreaming. Oh my gosh. It's nighttime. And sit down in the bathroom. I met my parents. My mom died in real life.
So I'm a soul transfer. I remember my soul transfer from two different bodies, from the one where I'm watching it come into me and the one where it's leaving me and going into my 3-year-old child. And the first one I remember is when I was 3 years old and watching my mother die and take her last breath, and then watching the lips change, the color pulled from her face, and then watching her light come out of her body and enter mine. Something I could never tell anybody growing up. It was something that I gaslit myself on. I told myself that I imagined it because I was traumatized as a child.
And there's a young man who was like me. They brought him to me, and he was dedicated when he was a boy, and then he went into the occult. Then he was buried in the grave for many days. You know, he had done all kind of things. So they brought him to me, and I prayed with him. He was not delivered. I prayed a second time, he was not delivered. The Lord said to me, you know what? Pray with him every day at 3 a.m.
Wow.
With him. Wake up every day, call him. He was staying in church. Wake up, pray with him at 3 a.m. And every time we begin to pray, he goes into a deep sleep. Like a coma sleep. Like that is sleep that you cannot wake him up. Like he leaves. And so I'm disappointed. But the Lord tells me, keep doing it.
Millions of people around the world wake up at exactly the same time in the middle of the night. Not 2 a.m., not 4 a.m., but somewhere around 3 a.m. And if you're watching this video, there's a good chance it's happened to you too. Maybe you opened your eyes for no reason. Maybe you felt strangely alert. Maybe you sensed a presence in the room. Or maybe you brushed it off and went back to sleep without ever asking why. For years, people have tried to explain this phenomenon. Doctors have theories, scientists have theories, psychologists have theories. But what if there are parts of this conversation that rarely make it into mainstream discussions? What if there are experiences that don't fit neatly into a medical textbook? Experiences reported by people from different countries, different cultures, and different belief systems, who all seem to describe eerily similar things happening during those hours of the night. And that's where today's story takes an unexpected turn. Because in a few moments, you're going to hear from former Satanist James Kawalya, a man who claims to have spent years deeply involved in the occult before abandoning that life and turning to Christ. According to him, the hours between midnight and dawn are not as ordinary as most people think. His claims raise uncomfortable questions about dreams, spiritual encounters, prayer, and whether there is more happening around us than we can physically see. Now, whether you agree with him or not isn't the point. The real question is this: why do so many people keep reporting similar experiences? Coincidence? Psychology? Spiritual warfare? Or something else entirely? Before we hear James's testimony, I want to show you real people sharing their own experiences waking up at 3 a.m. Some of them are unsettling. Some are deeply personal. And some seem impossible to explain. Pay close attention, because as this video unfolds, you'll begin to notice a pattern connecting dreams, prayer, spiritual sensitivity, soul activity, and those mysterious moments that make you realize we don't know the half of it. And by the end, whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere in between, you'll have a lot more to think about than when you clicked on this video. If you've ever woken up around 3 a.m., let me know in the comments below. Tell us what happened and stay with me until the end, because one detail from James's story completely changed the way I think about those quiet hours of the night. Like the video to let me know you're ready, and let's get started.
I feel like the deeper I get into my faith and the closer I get to Jesus, the more spiritual attacks I experience. Like every night for the past month, I have woken up at 3 a.m., at 2:58, at 3:13 a.m., and I'm having nightmares. Like I literally last night had sleep paralysis and I was being like held down by a demon. And at this point, I know every single time I wake myself up, I call on my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ's name. I rebuke that demon. I rebuke whatever thing is, tormenting me. I condemn them back to hell. I send them back to the sender and I pray for protection. And then I go back to bed and it's a wonderful sleep. But like every single night, like I'm tired and it's just like, this never used to happen to me too much before I started believing in God and believing in Jesus. And yeah, it just feels like the closer I get to Jesus and the more like obedient I am and just like really following on that path, I have just had so many more disruptive sleeps. And oh my goodness, what the heck is going on? They don't want to see me win out here.
This is what a nasty case of sleep paralysis can do to you. This woman's husband noticed that she would do weird things in the middle of the night, especially around 3 a.m., aka the witching hour. So he set up cameras, and this is what he caught. If that was me, I'm taking the baby and I'm leaving. I'm sorry. Either she's possessed or she's trying to get the sleep paralysis demon off of her chest. To be determined.
I just had the craziest sleep paralysis I've ever had in my life, and wallah, I've never been so angry and heartbroken. I went to take a nap, as you do, just 2 hours, nothing extreme, casual. I'm tired, I needed rest. Next thing you know, I see something crawling between my legs up at the end of my bed. And it's getting closer and closer. It's just some black figure. I couldn't see a face or anything. It's just, I can see hands like this getting closer and closer to me. How am I talking and the light's doing that? Anyway, I'm calling for my mum. My mum's in the same house as me, so I started shouting, "Ma, come help me. There's this thing. Come open my door." I kid you not, I don't know if I was seeing things, but wallah, I saw my mother come, open my door, look at me and walk off. I said, yeah, she's left me to die. How could you leave me? So when I realized I'm on my own, she's not going to help me, I was so heartbroken. I was angry, heartbroken, bro. I can't describe what I felt. I turned to Allah, alhamdulillah, yeah, the best thing I could ever do. I started reciting Surah Ikhlas and then I started working my way up through all the surahs that I knew. That's when things started to ease up. Then my arms started being able to move, and as soon as I could fully get my senses back, I just sat up and took a deep breath. First thing I did, I went to my mom and said, "Why'd you leave me to die?" She was so confused. I said, don't play dumb, yeah? You know what you did. But if you're ever going through sleep paralysis, please turn to reciting Quran, because wallah, I was so hopeless. There was nothing I could do. My mom left me for dead. But I turned to Allah and alhamdulillah, it eased up. Like I've never experienced something like that before in my life. But it's good to know reciting Quran is what brought me ease. So there's still some goodness in what just happened. And if I can share that with you, if you ever have this problem, recite some Quran. Inshallah, it will help you.
Now hold on for a minute. Let's talk about what we just listened to, because I think a lot of people miss something incredibly important here. We just heard a Christian woman describe an experience with sleep paralysis. From her perspective, the explanation is straightforward. She believes demonic forces were involved, and that calling on the name of Jesus is what broke the paralysis. And if you've spent any amount of time around Christians, you've probably heard stories like this before. It's always something along the lines of, "I couldn't move. I felt a dark presence in the room. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. Then I called on the name of Jesus and instantly everything stopped." You've heard it. I've heard it. In some circles, it's practically the standard explanation. But then something interesting happens. We listen to a Muslim man describe what appears to be the exact same phenomenon. Same paralysis, same fear, same feeling that something unseen was standing nearby. Except according to him, it wasn't Jesus that ended the experience. It was Allah. It was reciting verses from the Quran. And this is the point where I need you to switch your brain on for a second. Because Christianity and Islam are not the same thing. They don't make the same claims. They don't teach the same theology. They don't even agree on some of the most fundamental questions imaginable. So how is it that both individuals seem to arrive at the exact outcome they were hoping for through completely different belief systems? This is a vital question, and it's a question that most people never stop long enough to ask. We almost always only focus on going after information that will confirm our own biases and belief systems, and never stop to investigate things beyond surface level. Now, I know if you're a Christian and you're listening to this, you've already started getting uncomfortable. Perhaps you think I'm here to indoctrinate you with things that will shake your faith, and if you believe your faith is that weak, then maybe it's your time to click away and watch something else. But if you consider yourself someone who's after truth, keep watching. Because here's another piece of the puzzle. Every single night, all across the world, millions of people experience sleep paralysis. Not thousands, millions. Some are Christians, some are Muslims, some are Hindus, some are atheists, some don't believe in anything at all. And yet the overwhelming majority of them eventually come out of the experience. They regain movement. Their breathing returns to normal. The episode ends. No prayer, no deliverance, no religious ritual whatsoever. So what exactly is happening? And perhaps more importantly, why do human beings seem so eager to attach a meaning to the experience afterward? Because if there's one thing we've learned throughout history, it's that people rarely experience reality directly. They experience reality through stories, through beliefs, through expectations, through the mental frameworks they've inherited from parents, churches, cultures, communities, and entire generations before them. In other words, if you've been taught your entire life that a certain event means a certain thing, there's a very good chance that's exactly how you'll interpret it when it happens to you. Not because you're lying, not because you're crazy, but because that's how human beings make sense of the unknown. Now keep that thought in the back of your mind, because what you're about to hear from former Satanist James Kawalya introduces another layer to this mystery. A young man is brought to him for deliverance. At first, the story sounds familiar, but as it unfolds, you'll begin to notice something strange, something that connects belief, expectation, spiritual experiences, and the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening behind the curtain of reality. Listen carefully, because one small detail in the next account may completely change how you think about everything we've discussed so far.
And there's a young man who was like me. They brought him to me, and he was dedicated when he was a boy, and then he went into the occult. Then he was buried in the grave for many days. He had done all kinds of things. They brought him to me, and I prayed with him. He was not delivered. I prayed a second time, he was not delivered. The Lord said to me, you know what? Pray with him every day at 3 a.m.
Wow.
With him. Wake up every day, call him. He was staying in church. Wake up, pray with him at 3 a.m. And every time we begin to pray, he goes into a deep sleep, like a coma sleep. Like that is sleep that you cannot wake him up. Like he leaves. And so I'm disappointed. But the Lord tells me, keep doing it because you are breaking a pattern. I realized that was the time they could always come for him and take him for rituals when he's sleeping. There was a pattern in his life that every time at 3 a.m. he goes into a demonic sleep and he leaves the body. Go and use him. So I began praying and I didn't know what to pray. I first repented and the Lord said, no walking. He said, pray in tongues. So I could pray from 3 a.m. to 5 for 2 hours, praying in tongues, and he's sleeping. Until one day I think it was around 49 days, because it was 7 times 7. I was doing 7 days per week, and it was the 7th week, on the 49th week. He just said, I'm back. He looked at me and says, I don't know where I've been. Next day I'm praying for the 50th day, that is like the Jubilee, and this time he did not sleep. What delivered him? In my engaging in prayer, I was breaking a pattern.
A cycle.
A cycle.
That's quite something, isn't it? Pastor James Kawalya claims that during his time in the occult, he encountered cases where people would suddenly find themselves experiencing entirely different realities. In this particular story, he describes a young man whose consciousness seemed to shift from one realm into another, often around 3 a.m., a time many cultures and traditions have come to refer to as the witching hour. Now, whether you agree with that interpretation or not, it raises an interesting question. Why does 3 a.m. keep showing up? Not just in Christian testimonies, not just in stories from former occult practitioners, but in reports from ordinary people all over the world. And after looking into this topic from both scientific and spiritual perspectives, I've come to a conclusion that some people may find uncomfortable. Science has explanations. Spirituality has explanations. But the two often seem to be describing entirely different parts of the same mystery. The problem is that most people become so attached to one perspective that they assume it's the whole picture. Imagine introducing an elephant to 5 blind people. One grabs the tail and says, "It's like a whip." Another feels the ear and says, "No, it's more like a giant fan." A third touches the leg and insists, "You're both wrong, it's obviously a tree trunk." Who's right? In a sense, all of them are, and yet none of them are seeing the entire elephant. I sometimes wonder if humanity approaches reality in much the same way. We touch one part of the mystery and convince ourselves we've discovered the whole thing. But what if we're all looking at different pieces of a much larger puzzle? Because here's something we know for certain. Every night when you close your eyes and drift into sleep, your experience of reality changes dramatically. The rules shift. Time behaves differently. Distance behaves differently. People appear who aren't physically present. Places exist that you've never visited. Some dreams feel so real that for a few moments after waking, you're not entirely sure which reality was the dream and which one is waking life. Science explains this through brain activity, memory processing, and various neurological mechanisms. Spiritual traditions often explain it very differently. And perhaps the most fascinating thing isn't that these explanations disagree. It's that people continue to have the experiences regardless of which explanation they choose to believe. Now, according to James Kawalya, individuals involved in occult practices often possess very different beliefs about the relationship between the mind, consciousness, and spiritual reality than those held by most religious communities. Whether those beliefs are true, exaggerated, or misunderstood is a separate discussion entirely. But it does raise another question. What exactly is consciousness? Why do human beings report experiences that feel more real than reality itself? And why do some people come away from those experiences convinced they've touched something beyond the physical world? Because as we move into the next part of this video, we're going to explore stories from people who describe encountering realities that seem to exist beyond ordinary dreams. Experiences that blurred the line between the mind, the soul, memory, belief, and perception. And whether you interpret them as psychological, spiritual, or something in between, one thing is certain. The deeper you go into this subject, the harder it becomes to draw a clean line between what is happening inside us and what may be happening beyond us. Let's take a look at the next clips.
The creepiest thing just happened to me. You ever have one of those dreams where you just knew in your spirit that there was something more to it, like something you were supposed to be paying attention to? I don't know if this was destiny, a glitch in the matrix, or what, but let me tell you what just happened. Me and my girlfriend go out to get food and I'm making conversation. And I told her that I still remember my first nightmare. And she was like, me too. So I tell her mine, and then she tells me hers. And then she tells me that I used to have this reoccurring nightmare. In this nightmare, she's a ghost running through buildings and houses and just like running through the walls. And she said in this nightmare, no one could see her. And then I was like, wait, say that one more time. In this video that I linked right here from last year, I talked about this dream that I had about this woman running through my walls. And as she's passing through the walls, she and I make eye contact. She comes back through the wall and then just like smiles at me. And then I woke up. And in my dream, it was a brown-haired woman. You know what my girlfriend has? Brown hair. And a year later, where does she live? in this house that I had the dream in. And she and I met shortly after I had this dream. But of course I forgot this dream and didn't think that it was relevant. This is really creepy because that means that she and I shared a dream before we met. And what I think is really fascinating about this dream is that she stated as she was moving through the walls, no one could see her. But if my theory is correct, and we shared a dream space, that means that I was the only one who saw her passing through these walls. And maybe that was the moment where God or the universe or whatever you believe in decided that our paths should cross. And a year ago, I did not think that I was going to be living here with a girlfriend. It's just really strange. And I think it just goes to show that sometimes there's more to your dreams than you think there is. And there might be people out there that you are destined to meet. She didn't believe me until I showed her this video. And I just thought it was so crazy and it weirded me out so much that I was like, let me post this on TikTok.
So I was having a continual, I thought it was dream, but after, sharing what I shared, I realized it wasn't a dream. For 4 years, it was roughly 4 years. So I can't remember, it was maybe 2006 time frame that I really started this experience. For 4 years, I would have I thought at the time thought it was a dream, but it was like a series, like a episode in a series. But I realized that I was at the time, I couldn't really pinpoint if it was me on a different timeline, but I was in somebody else's body, experiencing their life for almost 4 years, because every time I go to sleep, it would pick up where it left off the night before. And there was a point in my life during that time that I was looking forward to going to sleep, because I'm like, oh, what's going to happen tonight? I was excited to go to sleep. That's crazy. It was somebody else's life. That's the thing. It was this person, I can't remember exactly because I just put it out my mind because I didn't know what was going on. But I'm excited because I think that I was just experiencing somebody else's life for that long of a time. It's crazy. I say you're saying that, the dream, it feels like it went on for years. I had that experience for 4 years, just living somebody else's life, or, jumping into somebody else's body and experiencing their life. I remember their husband. I remember them driving, cooking, the husband, I remember it all. I don't remember it all, but just going back and being able to pull fragments from what I can remember, it was crazy. Honestly, I remember getting in the shower. I do remember this, because I was like, am I ever going to have that dream again? But now I know it wasn't a dream. But man, I tell you, I am excited. I hope, and I know, this video may not make its rounds, but, at least, you've had the experience, and I just want to know if there's other people that had the experience like I have. And the experience is you've experienced yourself, you've been able to jump or experience yourself on a different timeline. You see that person's life through their eyes. And, I've done it multiple times. It's not like I make myself do it. It's just that I do it. But maybe if I really sit back and, focus on how it's done, I can do it. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share that. But for 4 years, I was experiencing another, I'm just going to say it was another me. It had to be. And like you, I don't think that it wasn't, me, it was somebody else. And it maybe was just a alternate life on a different timeline. But because this lady was white, I'm just going to say it. She was. Her husband was. her kids were. And it's fine because, you know, it was just like a regular life. Nothing was crazy or anything, but for 4 years. All right. Thanks for listening. And I hope to hear some more stories.
So I'm a soul transfer. I remember my soul transfer from 2 different bodies, from the one where I'm watching it come into me and the one where it's leaving me and going into my 3-year-old child. And the first one I remember is when I was 3 years old and watching my mother die and take her last breath, and then watching the lips change the color pulled from her face, and then watching her light come out of her body and enter mine. Something I could never tell anybody growing up. It was something that I gaslit myself on. I told myself that I imagined it because I was traumatized as a child. This is my very first memory, mind you. I don't remember anything before, which I think that's probably typical anyway. But I was a different child. I rebelled against everybody and everything. I knew what I knew. I learned things very quickly. Sewing, dancing, singing, like all of these different things I knew how to do at very early ages, and I knew how to do them well. It's almost as if I started with 39 years of memories to begin with, if that even makes sense. Growing up, people called me a know-it-all or a thing, you know, things like that. I got a lot of judgment for how I grew up. And honestly, I hid a lot of my light. I didn't want to be good at anything because every time I was good at something, I got bullied for it. And so I kept my mouth shut. I kept my wings closed. I kind of hid, and I tried to avoid the light at all costs. And it served me well for a little while until it started manifesting as health issues and things like that, as it does. Don't ever dim your light. It will make you sick. And I didn't quite understand why I knew things that I shouldn't have known. But over the years, I had feelings that felt very strange to me because they didn't feel like they were mine. And I couldn't identify with them the same way. And they felt kind of a part of, like, outside of me. So as I grew up, and I didn't have a mother to really explain these things to, I was kind of isolated. My dad worked. It was just me and my little brother. I visited my sister in the summers, and it was pretty much about it. She was 10 years older than me. So fast forward, I was always afraid of dying at the age of 39. It was something that I told people my whole life growing up. So the year 39 hits, and that was a very hard year for me. I went through a divorce with somebody that I loved way too much, but just couldn't show up. I did not want to divorce them. I've never been that in love in my entire life, but I knew that if I stayed, it would actually kill me. I needed to be genuinely loved, and I felt like I was being taken for granted. I felt like I wasn't valued, and that was something that I just couldn't stand for, and it almost felt subconscious. I almost felt like I didn't have a choice. I had to push it away. So during that year, I was pretty isolated. I had this on and off relationship with somebody that helped me to wake up some more, just because he was so avoidant that it made me question myself. Why am I putting up with this? Why do I make these decisions? Why do I choose these people? And when I started asking these questions, I started getting answers. I didn't like these answers. These answers were scary because it came from different dreams. It came from different people, and it felt very synchronistic to the point to where I knew that somebody was talking to me from different realms. And I just was really open to that. And so I said, you know, my mother was a psychic. My mother knew things before they were going to happen. This has to be something to do with that. So I started going down the whole journey of spiritual stuff. I started navigating witchcraft and demons and angels and diving deep. I started learning a lot about religion. I started learning all the lies of the universe. I really genuinely, every veil, one by one, just kept coming right off my soul. And I was like, oh my God, like, does nobody else see these things? Everything is fake. Everything is made up. None of this is real. Nobody seems to know. I felt so alone. And so through that process, I decided to just go ahead and fully trust everything else that I couldn't see. Because at this point, I couldn't trust anything that I could. And so I started asking Spirit and my guides to show me more, and they did. And on the day of my mother's death, 36 years later, she died in 1988 during a Lionsgate portal. She was 39 years old. It was 2024 during a Lionsgate portal. Just so happens they were both the year of the dragon. I don't know if that's actually relevant or not, but it was relevant to me. And I asked to see my past life. When that happened, I saw her put her soul in my body from her angle, and then it closed the loop. I all of a sudden remembered everything. I remembered things about how she knew all of the stuff that she knew. I started remembering her dreams. I started seeing where she came from and her bloodline. She was Rh negative. I started understanding how everything in this universe works. I started unraveling the code in my DNA. And when that happened, I started understanding quantum mechanics, quantum physics, neuroscience. I started understanding things that I never picked a book up on. I had zero business knowing any of the stuff that I knew. But the truth of the matter is that when you are directly connected to source, you know things. You don't know why you know them, but you know them. Most of the women that are probably going to see this video will know exactly what I'm talking about. With that being said, I remembered everything. It was like a flashbang of a situation and an experience for sure. And it's taken me the last 2 years to unpack it all. So as I'm integrating everything that I've learned, and I realized that I'm not built for the typical world. I'm supposed to be in it, not of it. I'm celibate. I'm single. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I'm growing every single day. I get a second chance. I get to now live the second half of the life that my mother didn't get to live. And girl, we're going to live it.
I need someone to listen to me. Somebody please listen to me. I just woke up from a dream, and I knew I was dreaming. Oh my gosh. It's nighttime. And sit down in the bathroom. I met my parents. My mom died in real life. Like, life I'm living now. She died 6 years ago. The dream started off, I was with my actual real mom. And the dream started off with my real mom, the one that passed away 6 years ago. But then it like morphed into a different dream. And then I had a different mom. And I'm telling her I'm dreaming. I'm like, I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming. And she's looking at me. And I'm like, I'm dreaming. I'm looking around. And I'm like, asking her all these questions. I want to know about her. And I remember asking her what she does for work. She tells me she's a pharmacist. Oh my gosh. And then she pulls down like the OR surgeon type of hat, the surgeon hat. And I look at her, I'm like, wow, that's so cool, you look beautiful. And she laughs, she's like, I wouldn't say that. So then, oh my gosh, I think I just met real people. I continue dreaming, and I'm telling her I'm dreaming, and she believes me. And I'm like, how do I get back to this dream? And she gives me 3 melatonins and puts them in my hand. Then I meet my dad. I'm at school. And my dad picks me up from school. And my dad's the same dad I have now. Oh, I should have said more to him. I should have said more to him. I'm so angry at myself. I'm like, Dad, I need to talk to you. It's an emergency. It's an emergency. And I say, Dad, I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming. And he looks at me, and he kind of like, you know, doesn't really pay attention. He kind of like shrugs it off. And I'm like, my name in my other life is Kiana McKenzie Kwame. My name in my other life is Kiana McKenzie Kwame. That's my name. My name is Kiana McKenzie Kwame. And my dad said, how are you dreaming? We've been here for 19 years. Y'all, I'm 23. I'm 23 years old. He told me I was 19. He told me I was 19. Then he leaves out the room and he comes up with these books. These like stress books, like how to deal with stress. Like I'm stressed or something. I'm telling him, no, Dad, I'm dreaming. And my dad here in real life, in waking life, is struggling. He's in a homeless shelter. And I asked him what he does for work. What do you do for work? He's like, I can't tell you that. He's like, I'm not gonna tell you that. He's like, I'm not gonna tell you that, which makes sense. I'm 19. He doesn't want to tell me how he's working, what he's doing for work, but he's like, I'm not gonna tell you that. He seems kind of cold. And my dad could be like that sometimes, like kind of like not taking me seriously. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this little girl has nothing really important to say, like that. Like that's how he was treating me. Like I was like going crazy, and we seemed like we didn't have a connection. Like there was no connection between us. Like he only came and picked me up on the weekends, and only visited me on the weekends. So he doesn't really know his daughter. That's what it seemed like. Like he didn't know me. Oh my gosh! I just had a dream that I was dreaming, and I knew about it, and I met my parents. And my mom was a different lady. My mom is dead. And my dad, in the dream, didn't take me serious. Then he was like, don't worry about my job. Just know I'm making a lot of money right now. I felt like he was lying. I felt like he didn't have any money. That is wicked, y'all. I've been crying. I just experienced another life. I just experienced another life, y'all. And I'm telling them I'm asleep, and they're looking at me like I'm wicked. Like I've been there my whole life. My dad's talking about some, you're 19 years old. I'm 23. I'm not 19. I looked in the mirror. It was the same girl. I was the same girl, y'all. The same fucking girl. I lifted my shirt up to see how big my boobs were. Cause I always want to have big boobs. I have these small, itty, tiny boobs. I wear a size B. They were a size B, bro. I had no bra on like I usually do. I don't ever wear a bra. I don't ever wear a bra nowhere I go. In the sleep, I had no bra on. And I had these small, itty, tiny boobs. I was the same person, y'all. And I know I was dreaming because my dad picked me up from school, and there was these wolves attacking this small little kitten. And I picked the kitten up so the wolves couldn't hurt the kitten. Oh my gosh, I'm crying. I told my boyfriend, he's looking at me like he doesn't care. He doesn't care, but I'm trying to tell somebody who listens to me, I think I just experienced another life. And I'm trying to tell people that in the dream I'm dreaming, and they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, no, you're not. Like, no, you're not. You've been here for 19 years. Like, no, I haven't. I'm fucking 23. What are you talking about? I'm not 19 years old.
Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've just heard. Because if we're being honest, these aren't ordinary stories. One man claims he shared a dream with the woman he's currently with. Not a similar dream. Not a dream with the same theme. A dream that, according to him, both of them experienced. Another woman describes something even stranger. For 4 years, every single night, her consciousness seemed to enter another life entirely. And what fascinates me isn't just the claim itself, it's the continuity. According to her, each night's experience would begin exactly where the previous one had ended, almost as though she wasn't dreaming at all but returning somewhere. Then we heard from someone who believes the soul inhabiting their body isn't the one that was originally there. What some people in spiritual circles refer to as a walk-in. And finally, we listened to a woman describing what she believes was a lucid dream. She knew she was dreaming. She was aware, conscious. Yet the experiences she had with her parents felt so vivid, so emotionally real, that she still struggles to make sense of them. Now, before we go any further, let's circle back to something James Kawalya mentioned earlier. The young man who was brought to him. The one who would frequently dissociate around 3 a.m. According to James, there were moments when this man's awareness appeared to shift elsewhere, as though part of him was participating in a reality completely different from the one everyone around him was experiencing. Whether you interpret that spiritually, psychologically, neurologically, or some combination of all three, the pattern itself is interesting. Because the deeper I dug into this topic, the more I began noticing something. Human beings throughout history have consistently reported experiences that seem to exist outside what we normally call reality. Dreams, visions, near-death experiences, lucid dreams, shared dreams, out-of-body experiences, spiritual encounters. And what's fascinating is that these reports come from people who often disagree on almost everything else. Which raises a question. What if the reality you're experiencing right now isn't the only reality your consciousness interacts with? What if waking life is simply the reality you remember most clearly? The reality your brain anchors itself to? Because if there's one thing these stories seem to suggest, it's that human experience may be far stranger than we're comfortable admitting. And this rabbit hole goes much deeper. Which brings us back to the original question. When millions of people wake up at 3 a.m., what's actually happening? Is God waking them up? Is their consciousness returning from experiences they can no longer fully recall? Is it purely biological? Purely spiritual? Or could it be that different people are interpreting the same underlying phenomenon through entirely different lenses? Maybe the Christian interprets it one way, the Muslim another, the atheist another. Yet all of them are attempting to explain an experience that feels undeniably real to them. And for some of you watching, especially those from deeply religious backgrounds, I know this conversation may feel uncomfortable. Because many of us were raised with very clear categories. This is from God, that is from the devil. This is holy, that is demonic. Case closed. But reality has a way of refusing to fit neatly inside the boxes we create for it. After all, how do we explain the countless experiences that don't fit those categories? The experiences that challenge both scientific materialism and simplistic spiritual explanations at the same time. I'm not claiming to have all the answers, far from it. In fact, the more I research consciousness, dreams, spirituality, and human perception, the less convinced I become that any single group possesses the complete picture. But there is one thing I'm increasingly confident about. Human consciousness is far more mysterious than most of us realize. And perhaps some of the things we've spent generations fearing, demonizing, or dismissing are simply things we haven't understood yet. History is full of examples like that. When new technologies emerged, people often interpreted them through the lens of fear. There was a time when some believed radio broadcasts were literally disembodied spirits speaking from inside a box. Today, that idea sounds ridiculous. Not because the phenomenon disappeared, but because we eventually understood the mechanism behind it. And maybe, just maybe, future generations will look back at our debates about dreams, sleep paralysis, consciousness, and spiritual experiences the same way. Not because the experiences weren't real, but because our explanations were incomplete. Perhaps one day we'll understand why so many people wake up at 3 a.m. And one day we'll understand what consciousness truly is. Let me know your thoughts and experiences below. See you next time.